Hey, friends, did you hear the news? The bullet was found, the missing bullet. Remember, there has been no bullet, no blood trail, no blood splatter, no autopsy, no doctor's report, no coroner's report, but the bullet has been found. So let's listen in to this news report, and I'll give you my commentary in just a moment.
Also, Kelly, we're hearing Charlie Kirk's organization is revealing new details surrounding his death. What are they saying about this?
Yeah, I wanted to get to that. There was a new post out from the executive producer of the Charlie Kirk Show, TPUSA spokesperson Andrew Colvett, and he wanted to post this. He said he spoke with the surgeon who worked on Charlie in the hospital, and they were talking about the exit wound. So Colvett was saying that there was no exit wound. We are still waiting to confirm this with the hospital, but he said he spoke with the surgeon who worked on Charlie. He said the bullet absolutely should have gone through, but it didn't go through. Charlie's body stopped it. He said, quote, "It was an absolute miracle that someone else didn't get killed." They did find the bullet just beneath the skin, he says, and even in death, he finishes that Charlie managed to save the lives of those around him. So that was just posted within the last hour. We wanted to make sure we shared that with you as well, Natasha.
Yeah, appreciate those details. Kelly Meyer live on the ground in Arizona. Thank you.
All right, here it is, Andrew Colvett. He writes on Twitter, "I want to address some of the discussion about the lack of an exit wound with Charlie." Now, to make it easier, I'm going to take this Twitter post and we're going to look at it here. It was also reported in News Nation. I would like you to see the inconsistencies or the missing links, I'll put it that way. I have underlined a few clues here. So let's take a look at it. Let me know in a comment below if you see what's missing in this story. So Charlie Kirk, stopping bullet, a life-saving miracle. Not only has he sacrificed his life for yours, as we were told in the memorial yesterday, he is a martyr for Christianity. Probably the Catholic Church will make him a saint in due time, because right now he is performing miracles. Who needs Jesus Christ when you have Charlie Kirk? Here we go. The high velocity bullet that claimed the life of Charlie Kirk on September 10th miraculously did not exit the conservative activist and harm others in the crowded event where Kirk was assassinated. I should have underlined that word. Let me know what you think is wrong with that word being used in this story. The executive producer of the Charlie Kirk Show said on Saturday, Kirk was fatally wounded when a sniper fired a single round from 200 yards away on the campus of Utah Valley University and struck him in the neck. Andrew Colvett, who produced Kirk's popular talk show, suggested the bullet's failure to injure or kill others who were behind Kirk is cause for celebration. He said the surgeon who tried to save Kirk at the hospital expressed surprise the bullet went no farther, but also noted the density of the patient's body. We're going to break this down a little bit more because there's more to his announcement, but let's see if you can see what I'm seeing or not seeing. So first of all, this announcement is not made by a medical doctor, a coroner, the surgeon who attended to Charlie, but the executive producer of the Charlie Kirk Show. Gee willikers, that's like having Trump announce the death, I should say, alleged passing of Charlie Kirk. Why do I say that? Well, there's no autopsy. There's no coroner's report. At least in the Shady Nook debacle, we had Dr. Carver here visibly upset, absolutely devastated, as he is telling the reporters that this is one of the worst scenes that he has seen. And if you watch this video, which you can find on YouTube, you'll see that there were several cuts, probably because it was difficult for him to keep a straight face, as you can see here. But at least they trotted out a doctor. Where's the doctor in the Charlie Kirk incident? I underlined the word Saturday. Isn't that a little bit of a long time to come out with this announcement? It seems to me that that's some type of information that would have been released earlier, but possibly because I have been asking and others like me have been asking, where's the bullet? Where's the blood splatter on the white tent behind Charlie? So many questions about this. So here we have his name, Andrew Colvett, and the missing surgeon. Let's take a look at the rest of the statement here, shall we? Turning Point spokesman responds to online chatter about KIRK death. Colvett said he had permission to share the information Saturday, the eve of KIRK's memorial service in suburban Phoenix. He said he was responding to online chatter about the lack of an exit wound. Well, let me mention, I've got a couple questions. Police recovered the presumed murder weapon, a high-powered bolt-action rifle, after the gunman jumped from a roof on the UVU campus and fled through a wooded area. A 22-year-old suspect, Tyler Robinson, was arrested 33 hours after the shooting and has been charged with aggravated murder. Utah Governor Spencer Cox has called the killing a political assassination and says Robinson had become radicalized. In response to Colvett's statement Saturday, News Nation reached out to the hospital that received KIRK before he was pronounced. I could have underlined several more things here, friends. So let's go through this. And I do want to go back to the first screen for a moment. People who don't read and who don't dig deeper and who don't ask questions and who don't look for clues and who don't use critical thinking are going to see the headline and they're going to conclude that a bullet was actually produced, that a bullet is now entered into evidence. And as of this recording, which is September 22nd, 2025, I have seen no reports of any bullet being recovered or being entered into evidence. So Charlie KIRK, stopping bullet, a life-saving miracle. People are going to see that and not read any deeper. So the next part that I want to break down here, this memorial service was held in Phoenix. When I do my story about Scientology, you're going to discover, as I did, that Scientology began in Phoenix. And the reason I'm mentioning this, L. Ron Hubbard also has connections to Star Trek. Yes, I'm going to have a standalone video for you about Star Trek and all of the curiosities and the oddities and the coincidences, the parallels that add up, or don't add up, I should say, with the Charlie KIRK incident. The reason I'm mentioning L. Ron Hubbard and Scientology, in addition to the Star Trek connection with Dr. McCoy and Captain James Kirk, and of course, Charlie's middle name was Charles James Kirk, could be totally a coincidence. It is unusual. But Charlie's connection with Scientology and his wife Erica's connection with Scientology, which I have exposed in previous videos. They have spoken at each other's events. And when I say each other's, I'm talking about Grant Cardone, well-known Scientologist, and Elena Cardone. People will say, well, Peggy, Charlie was there to preach the gospel. Well, the Bible says we're not supposed to really consort with unbelievers, certainly not at that level. And if Charlie had come on stage and said, now I came here because Grant Cardone is a Scientologist and all professing and Bible-believing Christians should reject Scientology, and here's why, I might have given him some props. Worse yet is that Erica invited Elena to speak at the Young Women's Conference that was produced by Turning Point. So why in the non-spinning world would a professing Christian invite specifically and intentionally and on purpose a Scientologist to speak to young women at a Turning Point conference? I've touched on this previously. Some of you have questions about that, so I will do a standalone video. The next point I want to bring to your attention is a wooded area. I researched the university and I looked at the area, and we'll take a look here together. There is no wooded area next to the university. Here you'll see a picture of the university. Yes, I'm using Giggle to see what they will serve up to the rest of the world. And you can see that there are some trees, but these are suburban areas. So here we have the university, and the news report that I'm going to share with you later of another smiling, very devastated witness seemed to be over in just a neighborhood, perhaps over here. there are some trees, but there is no wooded area. The news report made it sound as though the alleged shooter was running through some type of urban forest, I guess I could use the word. I had more than one person who is familiar with this area email me and say, Peggy, there is no wooded area. So that, again, is one of those things that just doesn't add up. Next, it says a 22-year-old suspect, Tyler Robinson, was arrested 33 hours after the shooting and has been charged with aggravated murder. Utah Governor Spencer Cox has called the killing a political assassination and says Robinson had become radicalized. I could also underline the word radicalized because the governor is already drawing a conclusion before the alleged shooter has even had a trial and evidence has been verified. How do we know evidence hasn't been planted? How do we know it was even this individual? How do we know there was even a shooter since there was no bullet, there was no autopsy, there was no blood splatter, and there was no coroner's report or any announcement or pronouncement publicly made by a surgeon or a doctor? In fact, there have been no witnesses in terms of the medical professionals speaking out about what happened. So let's work from the beginning here. Tyler Robinson. Okay, that name Tyler seems to pop up again and again. Speaking of again, does anybody remember Get a Gun? The first eyewitness who happened to call the media. How the media gets in touch with these witnesses, I don't know. Do they just call the media? Does the media call them? Interestingly, we didn't get to see Tyler's face. Perhaps he couldn't keep a straight face when he was giving his witness report. So here we've got ABC News Live, and it says, the reporter says, I want to bring in eyewitness Tyler McGettigun. Get a gun. Now, perhaps I'm pronouncing it with a little flair, but that's how I read it. It's indisputable that his name is Tyler. And this type of repetition is a well-known hypnotic induction technique to mesmerize and manipulate people's minds. So here we have Tyler as the alleged shooter, Tyler as the very first witness. And as I look at it, it sounds like Tyler McGettigun, get a gun. And wouldn't you know it, there's another Tyler in the picture. And this is the Turning Point COO with his nice Masonic gesture. Oh, I think you're starting to see it now, aren't you, friends? The memorial was filled with so many signs and symbols. And yes, friends, I took one for the team. I watched the entire memorial at a super high playback speed. And I am still going through the footage and matching it up with the astonishing and unbelievable, and when I say unbelievable, I mean you shouldn't believe it, statements that were made from people like Rob McCoy, the father of Mikey McCoy, who was so devastated he could barely keep the smile off his face, not only in his first interview, which I brought to you as a standalone video, but also at this memorial. There were astonishing statements made and gestures that were, how do we say, flashed, like gang symbols being flashed. And here is Tyler Bauer with his Masonic gesture as well. I just find it interesting that we've got three, because three is an important number with the Freemasons. We've got three Tylers very prominent in this story. And in Freemasonry, Freemasonry is a brotherhood that is secretive, and they communicate with each other through signs and symbols. I will have a standalone video for you on that. There's so much to do about this story. I'm not going to stop because many of you are as riveted as I am in going after the truth. Remember, I'm not after Charlie Kirk. I'm not after Erica Kirk. I am after the truth. And I am looking for clues, and I am drawing conclusions based on what I see and the patterns and how that matches up with these very curious connections with Freemasonry, Scientology, Hermeticism, which is also connected to the dawn of the golden age, the dawning, the golden dawn, as in Dawn Trump. So here we have it. In Freemasonry, the Tyler, sometimes spelled Tyler, is the appointed officer responsible for guarding the lodge's door from the outside, ensuring only duly qualified and worthy members enter. Armed with a drawn sword, the Tyler acts as an outer guard, symbolizing the protection of the lodge's integrity, secrets. Did you catch that one, friends? And harmony from cowens and eavesdroppers, meaning the outsiders. Other duties can include preparing candidates, assisting with the lodge room, and delivering Masonic notices. Now, here I'm going to hover on the word preparing candidates. When I do a breakdown for you tomorrow of some clips of the speakers, you will notice that this Tyler speaks about finding candidates for Charlie Kirk to interview for a position. And as it turns out, the candidate that Tyler found was Erica Kirk, that Charlie spoke to for, I'm going to say, 3 hours. I'll have to verify that. And he decided he didn't want to hire her. He wanted to date her. So isn't it interesting that this Tyler also has to do with preparing candidates, assisting with the lodge room, and delivering Masonic notices? He acts as the outer guard to protect the lodge's secrets. So here you have this Tyler, you have this Tyler, and you have this Tyler. Let's go on, shall we? The last part of the story from the spokesperson of Turning Point, where the bullet that killed Charlie Kirk was found. This was one of the subtitles in the News Nation story. So people are going to read the headline and assume that a bullet was found. Now, if I didn't read any farther into the story, that's what I would assume as well. But luckily, I don't assume things. In fact, I doubt things. I am how do you put it? I'm skeptical. So here we have it. The bullet should have just gone through and through. It likely would have killed those standing behind him too. Colvett said the physician told him on Saturday. The anecdote was shared on the social media platform Twitter. I don't call it X. X is a hex. X marks the spot. I will have to update my video on X marks the spot because this is showing up in the story again and again with 10Xing the Turning Point revenue, I guess. And that is also a trade name that the Scientologist Grant Cardone uses. So why is Colvett giving a summary? This is really hearsay. It would not be admissible in court, of what the physician told him. Why is there no statement from the physician? Is anybody questioning this but me? The coroner found the bullet just beneath the skin. Who's the coroner? Why is there no name? Why is there no name of the physician? Why is there no name of the coroner? Why is there no statement from the physician or a statement from the coroner? The coroner found the bullet just beneath the skin, said Colvett, who also serves as a spokesman for Kirk's Turning Point USA. Even in death, Charlie managed to save the lives around him. Remarkable, miraculous, he said. Now, let's take a look at some of the comments, shall we? Here is the statement, and there's something even more than what News Nation covered. So here it is, Andrew Colvett. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. That's how I'm saying it. And he says, I mentioned to his doctor, Charlie's doctor, that there were dozens of staff, students, and special guests standing directly behind Charlie on the other side of the tent. And he replied, it was an absolute miracle that someone else didn't get killed. His bone was so healthy and the density was so impressive that he's like the man of steel. I couldn't help myself, friends. The man of steel. He's like the man of steel. There he is. It likely would have killed those standing behind him too. In the end, the coroner did find the bullet just beneath the skin. Even in death, Charlie managed to save the lives of those around him. I want to share with you just a couple of these comments here. Someone is breaking down the classic defensive opener, discredit public speculation while subtly signaling moral authority, as if this man's involvement should automatically be trusted. I just spoke with the surgeon who worked on Charlie at the hospital. Now, this person is saying that Charlie died instantly. There's no autopsy or coroner's report, so I cannot make that statement with any type of veracity or credibility. But it is interesting here. The bullet should have gone through, it would have killed a moose, but it didn't. This is the trust me, bro forensic analysis from someone with no background in terminal ballistics, gunshot trauma, or even basic anatomy. If the bullet lodged beneath the skin, that suggests low velocity, deflection, or inconsistency in caliber used, none of which support the idea of a clean, high-powered rifle kill. And where's the actual ballistics report? I need to put that in my missing persons thing, right? We have no bullet, no ballistics report. We have no autopsy, no doctor's report, no blood that we see as a trail. And here the commenter says, we're fully in the realm of myth making. Turning a human corpse into Superman doesn't just defy science. It tells you exactly what this is, a psychological operation meant to close the book on forensic doubt and redirect the public into emotional worship of the martyr. And that, my friends, is exactly what happened at this memorial. I was so flabbergasted by the remarks that we are in Charlie's church and that the thin veil of heaven parted and Charlie proclaimed from heaven. I mean, this is so anti-biblical. It's stunning. I actually feel a little bit under the weather today. And I think it's because I expose myself to this sea of evil. And I will really buoy myself up here and do a full report for you tomorrow, probably over a couple of days, about that memorial, because it was so utterly fraught with idol worship, with human sacrifice, calling again and again for people to say that Charlie sacrificed his life for yours. They are basically replacing Jesus Christ with Charlie Kirk. And if you don't believe me, watch it yourself or watch my summary. So that now not only is he Jesus Christ, but he's Superman, man of steel. There's another comment here I want to share with you. When a known TP USA employee uses miracle language, contradictory medical claims, and a triple trust me format, all without forensic transparency and, dare I say, evidence, it's not just cringe, it is coordinated damage control. The truth doesn't require miracles, it leaves evidence. Now, check this out. Of course, we have the caliber, which is .3006. We've got 3 6s, which is the weapon of choice here. This person said, this will go through level 3 body armor. Most tree trunks you encounter in your average forest hikes, grizzly bears, and even 5 or 0.5 inches of steel on lightly armored vehicles. Yet somehow you want us to believe that it was stopped by Charlie's neck. Either you are a useful fool that is being told lies and repeating them, or you are in on the cover up. Which is it? Now, I don't believe the rest of this, where the story is that he was shot from behind and to his right. Personally, I have no evidence that he was shot at all. If he was shot on the left side, his body would have reeled over to the right, and it didn't. So I showed you before that there is something called a squib device, which is how they create gunshot wounds in the movies. In fact, I shared that in my very first video about Charlie Kirk, the Charlie Kirk incident. So you've got what looks like blood, and that is the premise and the supposition that I am taking here. So there you have it, friends. I have poked holes in this story. We looked at the lack of any type of wooded area around the university. We know that blood and gunshot wounds can be manufactured with squib devices. And besides, haven't you ever seen a magic show, or you've heard of that, where someone is cut in half right in front of your eyes? It's an illusion. And speaking of illusions, here we have Charlie. This was actually on the posters at the event. And they used this exact same imagery, and it looked like everyone had the exact same poster. And here it's actually called The Magician. There's the red and white robe. He's wearing white. There's the red hat. Of course, there are 6 of them, 3 red, 3 white, with the 33 symbolism. Above the magician's head here is the infinity symbol, which is also a well-known symbol of Scientology. I see all of this as a huge illusion. People will say, why? Well, let me pose that to you. First of all, there's something called a wolf in sheep's clothing. The Bible speaks about beware the deceivers, beware the false teachers. Why would Charlie present himself as a conservative Christian and lead people to Christ, as some have said, or lead people to conservatism? It's a very simple answer, my friends. It's very difficult for the government to get people to agree with oppression and tyranny when they force them to do it. But when they're tricked into doing it, then they accept it, especially when they have experienced trauma. Traumatized, fearful people are easier to control. It sets the stage, and it is a stage, for gun control, for censorship. If you dare to question the new martyr and savior who sacrificed his life for yours. That's the storyline that they were pushing in that memorial, which sounded much more like a marketing campaign for Turning Point. They sure don't want to lose their supporters. The reason is to increase surveillance and to push us all toward a digital society where we will be tracked and traced, of course, all in the name of security, safety, and peace.